Okay, Byron, I need your opinion on this. Ramos, music, you as well. Would you guys consider me a Lamar Jackson hater? Last year I was called a Lamar Jackson hater. Is that fair, Ryan Music?
Definitely fair that people consider you a Lamar Jackson hater.
Okay. Byron, do you remember what my critique of Lamar Jackson was?
I thought there were a few. I don't know if it was maybe playoff games, if it was
wasn't playoff games.
Passing.
Yeah, it was the couple things. One, the style by which he plays, everybody gets hurt.
Okay, yep, that sounds familiar.
That the style that they play, people will figure out, right? And the accuracy issues, while many of them, he has improved on his accuracy from college, they still come up, and they especially come up on the throws that he doesn't make well, which is outside the numbers, which eventually they will make him make. So it's more, it's a couple things. One, I'm concerned about his body's ability to stand up to all those runs. And then two, the more he throws, either the routes have to get more complex or the style, they will adjust to it as people have adjusted to this style or some form of this style in the past. Is that Ramos, is that a fair characterization of my...
Yes.
Wasn't, he sucks.
No.
Everybody's overrated.
It was a rational thought pattern.
Right,
about
and it was more
him.
of a long-term, you speak of the pitching reference, and I think, Bayer, you can probably equate this thing to baseball, right? Which is second time around when you go around the lineup, right? And guys start to figure you out. That's kind of where we're getting here. Remember, the league, for the most part, you set your defense, to stop the more traditional offense is not what they're running. And so even though they played some of this his rookie year, they went all into it his second year. And many teams are just not built to stop or even slow down or play against that style. So John Harbaugh said this on the passing game's recent struggles with his Ravens. I think it will play out differently from week to week, but I also think it's something we need to continue to look at. Here's Lamar in 2019, 9th in completion percentage, 13 in yards per attempt, first in QBR, 288 total yards per game. Now, a smaller sample size, and one of it has the Kansas City Chiefs to kick the crap out of them in there, but there were also some other games in which they played really well. He's 23rd in completion percentage, 26th in passing yards 24th in yards per attempt. That's from 13th last year. 13th in QBR and 236 yards per game. And let's also factor in that, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, this is a season where, for the most part, offenses have been ahead of defenses. And yet their offense is not as good, as sharp as it was last year. And I would say he's had a little bit of the knee, right? He missed a couple practices last week. Let's be reasonable. Like, he keeps saying he's fine, but they wouldn't hold him out of practice if he was absolutely fine. Teams are adjusting to their style. They're not as dynamic running the football. He's not as dynamic running the football. And they're trying to make him throw to those smaller windows, outside the numbers, underneath stuff, instead of giving away the deep shots to Hollywood Brown the way they did last year, as they're adjusting to this style. Now look, Pat Mahomes won the MVP 2 years ago, and last year he had the knee injury where the thing popped out, but his numbers were down. So it's reasonable to think anybody who puts up these ridiculous MVP numbers, the league's going to adjust. You're not going to keep growing exponentially at that rate, right? But the problem for me is the rank against the peers, the inaccuracy issues, the chance that the knee gets gimpy, and that we're in a year in which everybody else is putting up obscene numbers, and their offense has just been okay. So this is not me laughing, I told you so. This is, let's keep an eye on this Ravens thing, because Gottlieb may actually be right at the end of the day. But let me start with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell got released yesterday by the New York Jets. And it is fair that Joe Douglas, the general manager of the Jets, didn't really want him. It is fair. Adam Gase, the coach of the Jets, no one just didn't want a running back at that expense. And this is a Mike McCagnon. Mike McCagnon was the one who signed that deal, and then he was summarily fired shortly thereafter. But earlier today, there was a report or a tweet by a couple people that were reputable that Le'Veon Bell is down to the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Dolphins. Yes, 2 of the 5 best teams in the NFL, and the Dolphins are in that division. And then what you hear is, well, Adam Gase, he didn't want him. He didn't use him. You're not going to use him, then get rid of him. Okay. I would, if you want to tell me that Adam Gase strikes people as arrogant, I have no argument there. If his coaching has left a lot to be desired, I got no argument there. He has a reputation as a great play caller, that from his days with Peyton Manning. It's really hard considering how mismatched the pieces actually are. But this idea that they don't want to use Le'Veon Bell, like Le'Veon Bell last year had 245 carries. They used him. They tried. He averaged 3.22 yards a carry. Well, they didn't want to use him as, totally use him. He had 66 catches. Let me explain something to you. Was Le'Veon Bell overpaid? Yes. Okay. But he sat out a year and he was never the same football player. He's not the same football player. It's one of the risks that a lot of these college kids that opted out are taking by sitting out. Sure, you're healthy. Your body's intact. But not playing football a year doesn't make you a better football player. There is absolutely no correlation between sitting out a year. And then as an older football player, it ain't like it resets your clock. Rob Gronkowski didn't play for a year. Oh, he lost weight. He stayed away from football. He's feeling great. Have you seen Rob Gronkowski run? It hurts me to watch him run and try and get out of a break. Again, this is a lot like the Dak Prescott story. Wow, the Steelers didn't want him. No, the Steelers offered him a contract. It was just not some absorbent contract that they felt like he would be overpaid. And it wasn't like the Jets didn't want Le'Veon Bell. They just didn't want him at, $12, $13 million per year. And oh yeah, by the way, that would be the old Le'Veon Bell before he sat out a year, before he came back, and he can't run nearly as well anymore. He's not elusive. He doesn't get open. Wow, they didn't use him. He wasn't any good. Adam Gase is fighting for his career. He gets fired this year after getting fired a year and a half ago by the Miami Dolphins. Very unlikely anytime in the near future he'll get job number 3. So if you think for 1 second that a guy who, I don't like Le'Veon Bell, but I'm not going to use him out of spite, like that would be the dumbest, that would be career suicide if you have a star running back and you're like, I don't like his attitude, I'm not going to play him. No! He's just not any good anymore. And oh yeah, by the way, the Chiefs and the Bills, and I'm sure they are doing backflips to go see Le'Veon Bell. Can't run away from anybody. I don't think Adam Gase is as smart as he may think he is, but he's not as dumb as some of you are proposing that he is, or as ego-filled that he won't play a guy who's far and away his best player. There's a reason they could not get a trade for Le'Veon Bell. The league has seen him. You can't escape the tape. The eye in the sky do not lie. And once you can't run, it's really hard for you to try and play. Now, he may sign with somebody, and you'll see a couple of games when he can muster up, he rests up or whatever. The league becomes depleted, so many injuries, and he's playing in a league minimum. Fine. But I hear all this. Well, Adam Gase didn't want him. He might not have wanted him, but he would have used him if he can play. Can't play. If Le'Veon Bell is averaging 4.5 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry, guess who's getting the football? Guess who's getting the football this weekend with the New York Jets? Look, he's just not good anymore. That happens. It happens to all these guys. They get to their late 20s, and they're just not that good anymore. They cut him and still have to pay him. Like, you think Joe Douglas is going to go like, hey, I'm going to pay you to not play for anybody, even though you're still awesome. Okay. That would kind of be dumb. And I don't think that No one has told me that Joe Douglas is dumb. I've not heard that in any phone call that I've had in regards to the New York Jets and trying to figure out what's going on there. No one said, hey, you know who's not that sharp? Joe Douglas. Actually, it's been the opposite. Joe Douglas, sharp guy. When you got a guy can't play anymore and he's just taking up a roster spot and he's not all in it to win it. And it's not like you can put a veteran running back on special teams. They kept Frank Gore. They got rid of Le'Veon Bell. What does that tell you?